We're reviewing my class, Structural Social Work. The goal of structural social work is to locate the root of an issue in systems of oppression. So for example, like capitalism, neoliberalism, or like colonialism. It's also to alleviate effects of exploitative systems, putting on some band-aid solutions, so like service provision, homeless shelters, food banks, short-term therapy, and to also try to transform these systems. So like meaningful, proactive policy change. So like UBI, subsidies, access to long-term care, health care, broadening eligibility to those services. To do that, structural social work wants like advocacy, activism, policy change. These are like the main answers that they want in this class. You know, in 21 Jump Street, there's like two detectives or like undercover cops, and they're going in and they're like, oh, I have questions about what we're supposed to do. And then the captain's like, intercept the dealers, find the suppliers. And they're like, okay, but like, what should we do as step one? Intercept the dealers, find the suppliers. And he just keeps doing that. For structural social work, it's blame the system, help the oppressed, change the system. Over and over again. That's what this episode is. So the main assignments in this course want you to audit a service or a program, like something that provides something to clients. It could be like a homeless shelter, it could be like therapy, it could be whatever. So you need to identify the problem that the service addresses, and you link it to politics, policies, and larger forces. So like tie it to oppression, marginalization, power, privilege, exploitation, that kind of stuff. And it wants you to highlight overarching theories that the service subscribes to, whether it's like implicit or explicit. By that I mean like a service might present itself as being like social democratic or like, oh, we're here to help the people, but then like in their policy they more so abide by like more conservative beliefs. So you use these frames of analysis to identify the root of the problem. Like, is the service addressing the root or is it addressing symptoms? What could the service do to better address the problem? Just a note, social work assignments rarely want you to provide actual practical solutions. They want you to be more like idealistic and suggest like grand sweeping policy changes, like what would it be like if we changed the world? And they always want the answer to be like advocacy, activism, that kind of stuff. Make sure to blame capitalism, colonialism, neoliberalism.
What the fuck? It's so stupid. You're like trying to help one guy, and they're like, you know whose fault this is? Mark Carney. We gotta go fucking talk to him. Say, what the fuck, Marcus? Like, yeah, this guy's hungry. Gotta advocate. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. No, I mean like broader, bigger.
Change it. Why is he hungry?
Tell me.
Put his experience of hunger into a larger system of exploitation.
And why don't you put your money where your mouth is and vote to change it? Vote to get that guy a bite to eat.
One bite? That's all I'm asking.
One bite. Why are they like this?
My school is a school of structural social work, so that's like the big focus is how do we change systems and institutions and policies so that we can create broader change rather than, you know, helping individuals.
No. So idealistic.
I know.
Like, what are you, an infant? So you'd go to a homeless shelter and you'd be like, wow, they can only stay 30 days and then they have to leave. Like that moral dilemma thing there. And be like, why don't we have it so you're on probation after 30 days and you go up for review and maybe you could stay. And they're like, what you need to be thinking is this homeless shelter is racist and classist. It insists upon itself in a neoliberal structure. It just wants to be capitalist. We need socialist reform. We need more money so we can make this bigger and have people stay for as long as they need. None of this ticky-tack rule changes. Like, is that...
It would kind of be like, why do we even need homeless shelters in the first place?
Holy fuck. That is so fucking stupid.
And then that's where you go, yeah, we need something like universal basic income. We need more access to housing.
What a fucking joke. So like everyone has to go to university and just either pretend they believe this or believe it and then unlearn it. Normally you'll have a group of people trying to solve a problem and you'll have one jackass. You have a group of jackasses and one guy trying to solve the problem. I'm just imagining being at work. We have this prefab wall. It's not going to fit. It's too tight. The ceiling's too tight. Like, well, we can shorten the wall. We can grind down the floor. It was a different company that brought us the wall. They fucked up. Maybe we should just get them to do it. And then you have someone who's like, it should have just fit. These walls should just fit. It should be a situation where this doesn't happen. Then you're still in the exact same situation, and that guy's like, I'm the smart one. The more I was thinking about this, the more I'm like, yeah, I recognize this, but it's usually like a few people brainstorming an idea and one guy being like, I just don't even think we should have ran into this problem. Or just like some kind of stoner shit where like, what can we even know? What even is time? You know, it's just made up increments, measurements, and like it is just like, if you want to get that granular, go do it on your own.
Like my annual.
Yeah, you can fucking shut down any conversation by doing that. It's not interesting or helpful.
So what you're talking about was a pretty common sentiment. You join up and you're like, I want to practically help people, and like you join because like you have like empathy and you like helping people and you want people to like thrive and stuff like that. You're constantly throughout the 4 years beginning a class and you're like, now we're really gonna like get to like how to help people. This one's gonna be good. And then it's like, ideally we change the world and everything's better. And it's like, no, like I want to learn about like when things are bad, like then what do I do? Or like, how can I help someone in this situation or that situation? It's just like, no, not really learning it. I remember in practice with individuals classes, which is like supposed to be kind of like training to be a therapist, but like, you know, level 1 kind of thing. And it was still trying to take like this structural approach while doing the individuals thing. And it was like collective consciousness. When people realize that they're not the only one who's fucked, then they don't think it's their fault and they feel better and like, it's the world that's fucking me. And I was like, what? If I went to a therapist and they were like, hey, you're not the only one, but a lot of people struggle with that. Like, that's totally normal. It's like, okay, that's something you can say in 5 seconds, then what? Some people might be like, oh, yeah, that's really nice. Like, I didn't think that a lot of people have that same problem. Okay, carry on. Oh, man, it's the system. Oh, it's all these phony politicians. Yes, I see what you mean. Oh boy, do I. I might have to do a critical self-reflection on that one.
Like, how has this class changed you? It's like, well, it was the same class I took last year and the year before, and it's stupid as fuck, so not much.
We're going to cover some theory, very lightly though. We start with theoretical ignorance, and it's this kind of idea that everybody always uses theory, whether they're aware of it or not, and oftentimes social workers use theory without realizing it. Anytime like you're coming up with like greater ideas about like people or situations or like relationship or the world or politics or whatever, like you're using some kind of theory. And the textbook says that theoretical ignorance is just an excuse for sloppy and dishonest practice. So basically, if you're a social worker and you're like, I don't really use theory, I just vibe it out, dude, then it's like, oh, you're a fucking scumbag. That's kind of what the textbook's saying. It's like, you should connect like what is your viewpoint and connect that to something. Don't just be like, yeah, I'm doing it. You're familiar with modernism?
Something modern.
So modernism is like this period where the pursuit of knowledge and like furthering science at like any cost.
Eugenics.
Yeah, so like evil is acceptable as long as we're furthering things. And then, you know, you had like some world wars, you had Hiroshima, you had the Holocaust and all that, and people were like, ooh, we should actually care. And modernism believed language just like reflected objective truth, that it didn't have any bias. It's just like, no, these are just the facts. And that was an issue because like policymakers would make policy decisions based on like these objective facts and stuff. For example, there's like IQ tests, how they would be like, oh, okay, so like black people don't do so well on IQ tests. That means that they're not smart, rather than seeing it as like the tests are very subjective. like they favor white people. It says that Nixon used this argument to cut education and welfare. They extended like, oh, like black people aren't really good at IQ tests. That means that like they're not very smart. And then that got extended to people experiencing poverty in general. And then Nixon was like, these people are just dumb. That's all. Like there's no point in educating them. So let's just cut it. You need to be a more affluent person to benefit from education kind of idea. Harmful. So you could also like tie that to drapetomania or
Gepetomania. I know what this is. There was a big craze about Gepeto.
Drapetomania, which stated that slaves get this psychological condition that makes them want to run away. It would also be like homosexuality was in like the diagnostic statistical manual. So like what psychiatrists use to diagnose people. You know, it's like, oh, homosexuality is bad. And now I can diagnose you with that and something's wrong with you. You know, so it's like these objective truths, or like they were objective back then, especially like in modernism, were really used in harmful ways. All right, postmodernism. So postmodernism basically just emphasizes subjectivity and difference. So it's like an overcorrection for modernism. It doesn't really hit a sweet spot. So it's relativist.
Wait, it's between modernism and what? Sorry, I was just thinking about because we were saying Geppetto.
We were saying that.
Well, you know his cat's name.
Postmodernism.
Figaro.
Oh yeah, you said, remind me to tell you about
The guy at my work was like, Figaro, Figaro, Figaro. And it was like making me laugh because of your Figaro thing. And like, it just kind of caught on. I was just Figaro. And then like really tired one day. Oh, fuck man, I'm all out of Figaros. It's Friday. I'm like, I got one Figaro left, you know. And
well, you know how we were talking about Geppetto. You were like, wait, so it wasn't the sweet spot? Because like, I know how we were talking about Geppetto.
I think, well, I was saying it.
That has nothing to do with whether it was an overcorrection or not. So postmodernism is like an overcorrection from modernism. Like it's all about subjectivity and difference. It's relativist, and the example my textbook gives is like there's no such thing as human nature or like what's natural to humans. Like something that seems typical in one place might seem weird in another kind of thing.
Oh my god, this is where they go, what is time? How do you even know where there are no, it's Foucault. There is no objective truth. I can see, I can't hear, I don't.
So you're hitting on a big problem. One of them is that it overlooks that most of the world is still modernist. And it also rejects the fact that some things are objective truths, right? Like globalization or like capitalism. It says it ignores structural oppressions. So like race, class, gender. Oh, it's not real because what is race?
This is like they don't believe in anything.
No, I don't know if it's like actually that bad.
I don't even believe in talking.
So this is one that I thought was interesting. So it says the emphasis on difference reduces solidarity amongst oppressed groups. Rejecting universal narratives rejects foundational social justice discourses. So like these two things are bad because like we want oppressed groups to rely on their commonalities so they can unite and fight oppression. It's like going so far against stereotyping that it's like splitting everything down so fine that there's like no camaraderie or no unity. Alright, so this is like dummy bummy stuff. So structural social work, guess what that is?
I guess they're gonna meet in the middle like you're talking about, your sweet spot.
Yeah.
Or your Figaro.
Yeah, my Figaro. It's just like using an actual brain to be like, oh, so like everything's permanent and everything's like a universal truth where nothing is. And then they come together and go, oh, it's just some things are true.
It's just like, oh, yeah, the world's complex. Damn, who would have thought that the world is complex?
We also have order and conflict perspectives. These are our last two. Conflict is Marxist, social democratic, structural, it's leftist, and it believes that society is made of opposing groups that compete for resources and power, and the winners get control. The dominant group creates laws and institutions that favor them, causing structured inequality, and the state sides with the dominant group. Social inequality here is the main source of conflict.
I mean, I think the main idea of the Marxists, though, is that the workers seize the means of production, right?
Yeah. Social work within the conflict perspective wants to fight for social change at all levels. Social workers need to identify where power is, who holds the power, and who benefits from keeping the status quo. Doesn't say where to go on from there. So it's he's the one who benefits from having the power. Okay, now what? Activism, advocacy, policy change.
They're like, it should be a better system.
It's $1 million idea.
It's $1 million idea. What if everyone benefited equally? Is that such a crazy idea? Everybody should have their needs met. I don't think that's crazy. I think that's right.
Like that ethics episode that you love so much. What if you didn't know where you were on the social scale, and then you had to pick what the lowest would look like, and you were like, yeah, isn't that nice?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Imagine if you weren't the guy on top. Wow. It's eye-opening, huh? Yeah, think about that for a minute, and holy smokes. You're used to being a billionaire, and now you're going to the food bank. You're in line at the shelter. Wow, I bet you wish that there were more resources available to someone like you now that you're in that situation.
The order perspective. So this is more in line with neoliberalism. This is in line with the current powers that be. It sees society as predisposed to order, and it uses laws to regulate everybody. It views values as kind of universal and rules as inherently just. And it sees social problems as coming from deviancy. So it's a problem with your socialization. And then to fix that, we'll do some interventions. And if that doesn't work, then we'll institutionalize you. Prisons or child welfare or whatever. We're going to take you and put you somewhere else so that way you don't contaminate the rest of society. And it believes that social problems are best understood by focusing on the lowest level of society. There's the subcultural level of social problems, and it's just where they believe that minorities are disadvantaged because they don't align with dominant society. And within that, there's culture of poverty theory, which is oh yeah, people are kind of born to be poor. You're born into a poor home, and by the time you're still a young child, you've basically been indoctrinated into poverty, and you'll be like that for the rest of your life. Poverty is learned. They also have cultural deprivation theory, which is if you're not enlightening your children through certain things, if you're not reading to them or taking them abroad to broaden their horizons, doing these kind of things, then that's degrading them. So they believe that this causes people to have no concept of time or alcoholism or to be reliant on welfare. If you don't enrich your kids, this is why bad things happen. So it's just a lot of easy ways to blame people for things that are going wrong in their lives rather than connecting it to larger systems. So blaming the victim 101. Identify the problem, study the people who are affected by the problem and how they're different from the majority, and then define their differences from the majority as the problem, and then invent some humanitarian programs to change the people with the problems. So for example, it'd be a bunch of mandatory things that they have to do. So parenting classes, drug testing, work requirements, life skills classes, budgeting classes, short-term counseling or rehab, being yeah, you guys just have to change your lives so you can fit in. And this leaves social institutions completely unchanged. When we look at social work within the order perspective, it kind of sees social workers as agents of the order perspective. So like we take people who aren't doing well and we go, no, it's not the systems that are wrong, or like you're not being oppressed or anything. Like we just need to change you so you can fit back in. Like that's our job as social workers. And even though like we have these mandates and structural social work and it's in our code of ethics to change things, they're like, oh, I'm bound by the system and like I can only help you in this way, which is aligned with the order perspective kind of thing. So their major activities are personal reform and very limited social reform. So it's an effort to humanize capitalism and not to change it. And within this, the textbook says that there's like 3 major theories that are all order perspective. So the first one, psychoanalytic, so like psychotherapy, that's just to change you as a person, it's personal reform. And there's family therapy, that's just like to change how the family functions. And then there's an ecological approach, which is just to try to make you have the best fit within your environment without changing the environment. It's like trying to change you so you can adapt to fit into whatever environment. So none of these think the source of the problem lies within the system, according to the textbook. And I was like, I think it probably, they do see the system as the problem. Like, I don't think somebody was like inventing family systems theory and was like, the world's perfect. It's the families that are wrong. I think they were just like, yeah, like the world sucks, but like how can we help people individually within these issues? Like imagine if the whole world was taking this structural lens approach.
They're just thinking, fuck, if only I was there to say, you know what? They shouldn't even be in this situation in the first place. Like imagine if the parents knew how to parent properly and they had the resources and the time and the money, and then they didn't need to go to foster care. No one wants to say this, but it's like, it's fucking clear as day. Just avoid the problem.
Avoid it. Yeah, they're also really big on this theory called going back in time theory and fixing everything.
Time machine theory. Oh my god, if I was there when they were doing internment camps, I'd just say, what if there was no war to begin with?
Just goes back in time to be so unhelpful.
Probably. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing here, right?
There's just like no way that they can really see the world changing with their own theory. And they're like, but imagine if we didn't have to use the time machine in the first place.
The time machine doesn't even work. You use it and you don't even do anything. You just go back in time and go, what if things were different?
Yeah, so it says that these approaches are helpful, like the order perspective approaches are helpful, but they don't explain the cause of the problem. It ignores broader structural issues, reinforcing inequality. It ignores power and wealth that maintain inequality, and it fails to challenge oppression. So that's like their big attack against the order perspective, but then there's some stupid bullshit where it's like, it admits order and conflict social workers do the same things. The difference is their explanations of social problems and society. To me, that just felt really anticlimactic. It's like, you know, if you were to observe these social workers, you couldn't tell the difference, but one of them's actually doing their job from the order perspective.
And you can't tell the difference?
No, I just mean like, how would you? Like, if I'm just working my daily job, helping people, and they're like, are you conflict or are you more like order perspective? I'm not saying that the difference in theory doesn't matter because I align with the conflict perspective. But if you were to watch me do my work, like unless I was expressly talking about this topic or something, how would you tell? What has social work done? It's really just burnt the conflict perspective into my brain and be like, this is what you must do. And I'm like, cool, I can recite all that. And it does align with me. But this is like, you know, baby's first fucking day out. Do you want to be a good guy or a bad guy? I'm like, oh, I'd like to be a good guy. And they're like, okay.
Come back tomorrow and we'll ask you again.
Another dumb one, which is the dialectic in structural social work. And it's just like these false dualisms. You know, we work for social welfare. We're supposed to help people. We're supposed to give them autonomy, but we also work to
control them.
Yeah, to control. So it's like, we're here to control. We're also here to liberate. How are we going to do these things? So that's the dualism. And you know what it says the strategy is? Maximize emancipation and minimize repression.
What the fuck? What? You like honestly like to me if I hadn't heard this and you would have said yeah I wrote that on my essay, I would have been like that must have been a failing grade because that's the dumbest thing. Minimize oppression and maximize emancipation. I want to run faster and longer. Well, you need to maximize speed and minimize getting tired. And you'd be like, that is actually what I want to do. So how do I do it? And I'm like, no, I just said how to do it. You're just rephrasing the question. Unfucking believable. That's like worse than the other stuff. Because not only is it your whole what if there were no problems guy, but it's also like it's not an answer at all. It's just rephrasing questions. Unfucking believable that they would teach that. I'd give that a failing grade if someone wrote that. I'd be like, the essay was good until I read that. Fail. See me after class. You're kicked out of the university.
We have another one that you'll like in the same vein. So there's 2 questions that cause disagreement in socialist schools. Number 1, should structural social workers work inside or outside of the system?
What the fuck? The working outside of the system is almost entirely volunteer work. Right? It's unpaid. So you're a good guy, so you choose to be a social worker. You're like, I'm not going to forego a salary. We just think that people should have a full-time job working wherever you want. There's your agency. We just maximized it. But then your real job...
You just maximized it.
Your real job should be after hours, going to protests, volunteering, fighting the power. Put up posters.
Like, you think I need a social work degree to do that?
No. Don't work in the system. Are you kidding me? Who's arguing that? Most brain dead fucking shit I've ever heard. Like, go to trade school and like, don't do it. Go rogue. Like, it's
just build things for the sake of it.
Yeah, you don't build within the capitalist society. You need to build for free or build at a non-profit and they'll pay you a little bit. Like,
give me that dirty look. It's like, you have no idea if I can even build at a non-profit, if that's a job.
It is so funny because it is like, you're a good guy, you want to be a social worker, but it's like, big picture, I want a fucking job. I'm not that good of a guy. I'm not trying to be Superman here. It's like, you have to have a job. I'm choosing a job where I can help people. And they're like, forget the job part. We're just helping people.
Oh, you're gonna love the answer. It's needlessly binary.
Okay,
we can work within and outside the system.
It's kind of basically what I said, where you work full-time and then you have a basically full-time job moonlighting as an activist for free. It's basically what I said. Yeah, you have the agency. You can do any job you want. Then you just have to dedicate the rest of your life. Oh my God.
All right, question number 2.
I hate this.
Should structural social workers concentrate on changing people's consciousness or changing material conditions and structural patterns?
No. Should we be like doing real tangible things? Or should we just be like fucking vibing? And it's like, you're not changing the consciousness. You have a fucking class full of kids that already agree with you.
Yeah, I know. I've like never really identified with the term like imposter syndrome until thinking about like when you go up to professors and you ask, how can I really help? How can I? And they're just kind of like, oh, you sweet summer skeeter, if only you knew that this is how you change the world, is by wishing it to be.
So you think you have imposter syndrome because of that?
No, I just projected it onto them after that. I'm like, wow, they're just totally like, fuck, I don't know, but I gotta say something.
Okay, but that's not imposter syndrome.
No, I don't have it, but like...
No, I'm saying they don't have it.
No, but I'm projecting it onto them. It's like, well, what would I say if I was in their shoes? I go, we just have to change the world one step at a time. It's like, that's what you're telling me when I'm asking you for practical advice.
Yeah, it's like one step at a time. What's the first step?
First step, get out your phone, get on social media, like a post.
Like my account, like my dog's account.
Yeah, so you can see that there's a bit of a theme of like modernism, postmodernism, structural social work is the perfect balance, and then it's like order perspective, the conflict perspective, and then like getting into like, but what should we do? Should we intervene within the system or outside of it? Oh, what if it was perfectly in the middle? Should we help people practically or should we change their minds? What if it was? And it's like, oh wow, this is really what I'm learning, and that's what my degree is. The more you know.
You get this problem all over the place, like in politics especially and stuff, but where people, instead of just accepting that you're a person, you have opinions and you have values and you're going to go off that, they're like, we'll create a measuring instrument that will be our guide. And you're like, no, like we're all here. We're all believing one thing. That's okay. We don't need to pretend like we're following some totem. You know, we could just be like, these are our opinions. These are our values. This is what we want to do. And this is why we're doing it. But instead they're like, no. Like you have your objective truthers. Like we can't have opinions, and then you've got your modernists who are like, we really can't have opinions, you know? And then you're like, we're gonna meet in the middle and we're still not gonna have opinions, we're just gonna meld these two. And it's like, for fuck's sake, you're supposed to be highly educated people, you have zero critical thinking.
That was like the main thing I noticed right off the hop. Social work and social work research often just seems to be like the whistleblowers against conservative stuff going on. Like being like, see, look, isn't that bad? Look, we did the research, it's bad. And constantly just nonstop. And it's like, who's reading this? Just you guys.
They're the big get together. We had a massive gotcha last week.
You know, a lot of this stuff isn't even, you know, social work is always like preaching accessibility and like, you know, helping more like the common man and all of that. And I was like, all your research is so like performative and like
flowery language. No one could ever access it outside of academics.
It's hard to read, it's hard to understand, it's like way too dense, and it's just like, and also my social location and it's like, are you trying to help the common person or are you trying to be like,
you're trying to jack off in front of your peers and have them applaud, and you've succeeded.
For a profession that's like, yeah, we should really change everything and the structures and all of that, it's like you guys are just trying to show off who's the best at like idealizing this different future.
And you're so against institutions, but like the institution of academia where you have to write like this and do this, they're just like, oh. Because you could at least see someone being like, well, I have to write like this. This is my research paper. This is how these are written. But I also have an accessible version of it for everyday people.
And unfortunately, we're going to be that accessible version for a lot of people. And it's just like, wow, look, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, here's what they said. Fucking barf. Put my 2 cents on that. Oh, wow. It's fucking dumb.
So we have some myths about oppression, like common myths. So one of them is like scarcity, the idea that like, oh, there's not enough to go around, even though a very small amount of people own pretty much everything. A myth of objective information, which is that like the dominant group observes everything without bias.
It's your modernists.
Yeah, it says might is right, so like the majority rules and we can kind of forget about everybody else. Stereotypes in general. Blaming the victim, so blaming people for their own oppression. Meritocracy and equal opportunity. So just the idea that everything is like equalized under law, everybody has the same opportunities, and if it didn't work out for you, you didn't work hard enough.
Don't really need to pick those apart. Everybody knows, and we've already spoken about a lot of that.
We have forms of oppression. So number one, exploitation, just like Marxist stuff of like, we don't get to own the means of production. Sexual labor within exploitation. So like nurturing, caring, smoothing over workplace tensions.
Sexual?
Yeah, I thought that was funny too.
That's not, I don't care if they say that's the right word. That is, it's like gendered expectations maybe for women. It's not sexual. Sexual exploitation. Like fucking, if you think that's the right word for like what women have to go through in like a work, it's like, what comes to mind? Sexual exploitation.
Not that.
It's not a woman having to be agreeable in an office. What a fucking idiot definition. My God.
Who knows? Maybe I got the wrong word, but I have it here as sexual labor.
Oh, is that what it was called? Sexual labor. I mean, that just sounds like sex work. What was a sexual labor? What the fuck else would that be? If you asked 1,000,000 people, what is sexual labor in an exploitative context? Little sucky sucky.
They would all be a blowjob.
That is the true labor.
It's work.
It's a job.
And under that, they say that the work that women are doing for men gets uploaded onto the men. The women don't get any appreciation.
The men are taking credit for the women's work.
Credit, that's the word, yes. Within exploitation, there's also racism. So it says wherever racism is, there's an expectation that non-whites work in servant roles. So like domestic work, bellhops, maids, busboys, janitors. And it says that these jobs enhance the status of those who are served.
That second part definitely makes sense. So, like, yeah, your status goes up if you have people serving you.
And just that most of them will be marginalized people. It is kind of funny, they're kind of saying, like, if you have servants, you're probably pretty high class.
Well, I'm more just thinking, like, you have the lower class people, a larger portion, like, ratio of them are people of color. Agree, that's exploitative. But then when you're like, oh, but they're working service jobs, and that's the exploitation. It's like, well, they're just working any job they can. I don't know. It's just this specific point doesn't really make sense.
It also talks about dangerous work. It says during war, you have poor whites going to war on the front lines while rich dudes kind of like organize everything in the background from a safe distance. And it says indigenous workers work on skyscrapers and bridges. I was thinking,
I work on skyscrapers, buddy.
how many skyscrapers and bridges do we have? And then indigenous people are like 5% of the population. I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's weird. That's very weird, especially because maybe this is like historically or in different places, but like I work on high rises. It's primarily white people. Definitely a big slice of the pie that are like South American immigrants, but it's mostly white people and then a handful of people of color. The idea that it's like, it's all indigenous people.
And imagine if it was, it's good money.
It's a good job. I like the job. But so maybe they're referring to back in the day when it was a super fucking dangerous job and people were just falling off the girders all the time. Not good pay, and you'll probably die.
It also says that keyboard operators are subject to strain. This is within like the dangerous work section. They said that this was a woman's risk, but everyone nowadays is basically on their computers all the time. And this was written in 2017. So it's like, oh yeah, keyboard strain. It's like, wait, everybody's working on their computer so much. And it's like, what strain?
I'm imagining back like in those movies when you'd see like a fucking room full of women on typewriters.
Okay.
However, I mean, obviously that's just not a job and has not been a job for a very long time. But also it is like, you could say that about any physical job, and almost all of them men are doing, so I don't know. Like women have like so much shit they have to deal with. I don't know how you're trying to be like, and let's not forget who suffers from manual labor. Like, men, that's one thing we suffer from. Just to be like, physical labor can give you an injury and women bear the brunt of that. It's like, are you fucked? Men bear the brunt of that. Women have so much shit they have to deal with, and you're trying to be like, they have the physical labor thing. No, that's one of the things they don't have, you know?
Another big form of oppression is marginalization. It says that this excludes people from meaningful participation in society. It leads to severe mental deprivation. It says that welfare distribution has not eliminated large-scale suffering. There's no assurance that the welfare state will even continue. Welfare policies punish recipients by interfering with rights to privacy, respect, and autonomy. So for example, like you get forced into taking programs. Even for disability, you're forced to jump through hoops and you have to attend programs and you constantly have to reapply. And one of the really dumb ones is I was talking to somebody who is in a wheelchair. And they were saying like, yeah, like I'm an amputee. I have to reapply every year, but I can't just reapply on my own. I need like a doctor to sign off on it that like, yes, I'm still missing a leg.
What the fuck?
Every year. And they're just like constantly having to like re-verify and like give them all of your income every month so that way they know that you didn't make too much that month, and just like doing all this stupid bullshit. So that's where like, privacy, respect, autonomy,
No arms.
It says that even when material deprivation is not happening, you can still be marginalized. So they use the example of elderly people having material means but being excluded from meaningful participation. You kind of become invisible once you're older, don't really get to engage in too many activities because like all the stuff you used to do might have been more work related, and then you lose that attachment to society, and then you're just kind of like, what, nobody cares about me anymore? Powerlessness. So it says that you get to exercise little creativity or judgment in your work. There's no technical expertise, authority, or respect. And I think that kind of ties back to like the like busboy thing where it's like, oh yeah, like they kind of just get whatever job that's available, and it's like, well, those jobs are usually you have like no autonomy.
Yeah.
It says that that's pretty hard on the brain. Another form of oppression is cultural imperialism. So this is where we measure groups according to dominant norms. Like we measure other groups against white people. So differences between people are constructed as deviance. So like if you're not acting white, then it's like something's going wrong here. That's wrong if you don't align with like white society. It says there's a double like / paradoxical oppression where it's like your differences are very much like they're maximized. Like when we look at you, it's like, look how different he is. Like he doesn't align with white society, but at the same time, like your experience, like we don't give a shit. We don't care about like what you have to say or how you feel, but we look at you and we maximize like what difference we can perceive from you. The last one is violence. Basically that like the dominant group gets to perpetuate violence against minority groups. It's typically like state sanctioned violence. White people aren't constantly under that kind of threat. Strategies to reduce privilege. Have you heard of standpoint theory?
No.
So this is the idea that like the further away from privilege you are, the better understanding you have of society. As an unprivileged person, you really need to learn how to like navigate within society to like appease these norms and stuff. Whereas if you're privileged, you can just be like, everything seems all chipper to me, and you can just walk through life.
Yeah, I know, it makes perfect sense, because if you're poor, you have to deal with all the problems that come with being poor. And you can see someone who's rich and be like, yeah, that would be fucking dope. You would know all the problems I have, I don't have to deal with. But if you're rich, you're really not going to have a great idea of what it's like to be poor.
And you've seen what it's like when they try to make it work the other way around. They're like, oh, I understand poor people just fine. Yeah. This is how I would do it if I were poor. And it's just this stuff fucking stupid bullshit.
It's also just so obnoxious because it's like, not only do I have to deal with being poor, but you're telling me like, if you weren't such a fucking idiot, you wouldn't be poor. Like, it's simple. You just do zip, 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 and it's like, oh yeah, I guess I'm a poor fucking idiot. I guess I won't do these very like simple things.
We have a couple negative ways that the textbook says social workers handle privilege sometimes. So number one, social workers might get like a fear of subordination, like a fear of like losing their privilege. So they shut down discussions of privilege. Another one that's a little more funny is the flight to innocence. So it says that social workers will avoid responsibility by hiding their dominant group alignment, and they'll kind of front load their sub identity. For this, to me, I kind of imagine if privilege came up and I was like, well, yeah, but I have ADD. We experience the same kind of stuff. Like I struggle with this and that. Like we're really more, it's not that I'm like a white man who's a social worker. Like we're really on the same level.
I'm disabled. Someone who has potentially like a very small marker of being a minority or something, and they're like, that fucking...
I think that given that textbooks are often like framed towards like a woman reading them, and they talk about how social work is dominated by women, so I think this is probably framed as like a white woman working with like a woman, or just like anybody who's a minority being like, well, I'm a woman, so like I experience a lot of injustice too, which is true, but then that kind of like invalidates whatever thing that their client might be experiencing. And it says that nothing is achieved by privileged people sharing their powerlessness. And I agree with that. You shouldn't be sharing that bullshit with your clients. Like, sure, you guys can share it with each other, but like, now's not the time when your client brings up like their own issues and you're like, oh, well, I got the ADD, brother. So here's a reading called My Class Didn't Trump My Race.
Oh.
So this is another beautiful example of my bias against critical self-reflections. So in this paper, it's like a really self-deprecating social location reflection of a poor white woman kind of using her own personal story to prove like, hey, look, like my privilege as a white person overpowered my class. The thing that I want to talk about is I got this quote, which is, the moment I interrupt a person of color, it is racism. She says it's okay to interrupt anyone else, but interrupting black people is racism. She says the excuse that that's how your family communicated growing up is white privilege. And to me, this is like the weird lefty stuff that no one can really get behind. Like, I can't really imagine any of the black people I know being comfortable with like that kind of deference. Like if I were like, oh, I'll never, or you're going to talk, oh, sorry, like I didn't mean to. Just like anybody else, they're not going to want you to be, oh, sorry, I don't know, how should I act around you? Oh, I act so differently around you because you're black. It's like, is that what you think black people want?
It is this kind of thing where they got something real, and then you just take that to the most cartoon extreme where we can never. No, why don't you just open your eyes a little bit and be like, am I giving this person the same time that I'm giving everyone else? Yes or no?
Like, oh, me and my black friend, we're constantly interrupting each other. Like, that's fine. That's like your relationship dynamic. People can have their own relationships, and that's okay. If you are white and you have friends who are people of color, and you're like, would it be inappropriate if I interrupted you? Like, should I never interrupt you again? Like, is that racism? What do you think they would say? They'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
She's lost in the fucking sauce, man. She's lost. She's fucking washed. You don't have friends that are black. And to the extent you do, they think you're a cringe dork bitch. The only like people of color friends she has are people that are like also in this program that are like, yes, interrupting me is racist. Like, because they're like as much of a dork as she is.
Now to top it off, give an actual example of racism. We have somebody named Senator Lynn Bayak. She is a Canadian senator who is a residential school denier. She said the schools did more good than harm for Indigenous people. And here's a quote, I've suffered with them more than they'll ever know. The best way is to move forward and to not blame.
She suffered with them. Was she at the schools?
No. It was like a white woman.
Because at least maybe if she was at the school, she'd be like, it was just as bad for us, or like, you know, something. But it's like, you weren't even there? Are you kidding me? I suffered with them. Like, maybe you suffered in your own unique way. Maybe you could say that if you really had to. But like, you didn't suffer with them. What the fuck are you?
That's a good point. Maybe you suffered in your own unique way, and then she uses the flight of innocence.
That's why I thought you brought it up. Was this whole, I had my own. This woman is almost certainly just like racist. No, she's racist. Like, fucking, yeah, white people are better, whatever. Like, the natives needed this. She can't say that. So she goes and says shit like this, which is not even that far off. There's millions of people like this of all ages. They are racist. It's not that they're so old that they're mixed up. They're just fucking racist.
So after she said that bullshit, she was asked if she had read the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which is just like a big document of like what has happened, like how bad was the residential schools and like just like the impacts that Indigenous people have faced. You know what she said? I don't need any more education. Can you imagine? I've suffered just as much as anyone else has. Have you read the document? I don't need to read the document. Why would you even admit to that if you're trying to be like this evil racist person who's like trying to cut down Indigenous people? You just go, oh, I've read it, I disagree with it.
Yeah.
So she argued that indigenous people signing the treaties, like since they had signed the treaties, that proved that they wanted education.
Get her out of here.
Let's say they did want an education. That has nothing to do with assimilation. Even if education was like, oh, that was totally in the treaties and that's what they wanted, it's like, that's not what we gave them.
And I seriously fucking doubt that's what they wanted
Right.
anyway, was any form of education. Like, I think they were just like, yeah, you guys can hang out here. But even then, it's like, yeah, if I sign my kids up for a school and then they kill my kids, and this woman is like, well, you signed them up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, if you give her the best faith belief in what she's saying, it's still fucking bullshit.
It's like they wanted education. It's like, we're talking about genocide here. And she's like, yeah, education.
So it said that her comments also emboldened a racist uprising of deniers.
Oh, great.
So she ended up getting like a bunch of letters being like, bravo, like, we stand with you. The schools were good and all that stupid bull.
She's independent because she was removed from conservatives, suspended from Senate twice, the first time for posting letters to her website that were considered to be offensive to First Nations people, the second time for failing to comply with mandated anti-racism training.
Yeah, I got a kick out of that because it's like, you're part of the Conservative Party and the Conservative Party is like, you're denying things that the Conservative Party had already established that they agreed to. Like, the Conservative Party had already noted, like, the residential schools, that was a horrible thing that happened and we deeply regret it. And she was like, it's good. And they were like, hey, yeah, you're out of here. All right. So for the assignments, it's mostly just service analysis, looking at a program that the social worker could deliver and how you could change it. So for this example, we'll look at like short-term mental health support. You want to highlight forms of oppression. So like marginalization, you're marginalized because you can only access free, time-limited Band-Aid solutions that are victim blaming care. Even though like as a service user, you do want somebody to help you as a person. You don't want them to get into this structural social work bullshit. You can't talk about that in the assignment. They don't want to hear it. And for other forms of oppression, like you can easily see how you could tie in like powerlessness, exploitation, blaming the victim, cultural imperialism, like how is it fitting in within the order perspective rather than the conflict perspective. So just like really try to tie all of these things in as like a critique of what the service is doing wrong.
Wow, it really makes you think.
I'm telling them how to do the assignment. I'm not fucking trying to change their lives here. Just some ideas.
Wow.
I know you're kind of dumping on it a bit, but oftentimes you ask professors for what do they want, and they won't fucking tell you shit.
They're like, what I want is structural change.
And like, you don't know where the money is because in watching this episode, you can tell how extremely vague things can be. And then it's like, well, what do they really want? And I'm like, okay, I've done the assignment. This is kind of what they want you to do. It would have just been so nice for me as a student to have somebody be like, oh, just do it like this, do it like that. Like, this is what they're really looking for. This is what they're asking for. And I ended up getting pretty good grades on all this stuff, but it took me a while to figure it out. And you talk to the professors, it's like pulling teeth. Like, they don't want to tell you what they want. Some professors, like all my favorite professors, were able to be like, this is what I want. This class just felt like a bit of a mind trap. You want to help people. You want to change the world. And they're like, don't actually do anything helpful. Just suggest idealistic things. And that was really hard for me to understand because obviously you would never say that as a teacher.
Glad I didn't have to do that.
I think it's useful to analyze a service and see where like it's not so good this way and that way, but I think it would have been better to make practical suggestions. Like, what would you do if you were an administrator at this to make sure like more service users get better help?
Or even like, what would you do if you were working at this place? Because that is what you will be doing.
I'm not going to be an auditor.
Like, they're going to skip worker, supervisor, manager. They're like, we want you to go up here, knock on some doors. And it's like, that should have just been like one aside that they had. Like, but it really should have been like, here's what your expectations as a worker. Here's your expectations as a supervisor. Here would be the expectations if you made it up to being a manager. Beyond that, it's like, well, that's not our scope. That's what it should have been. And then just thinking broadly about this, a little more abstract, like big picture, yeah, we would like to see massive policy changes, reform. That really is the only way that we can get like a really good system that actually is equal. But within it, this is what you do. The idea that they just went 100% into fucking abstract theories is just fucking crazy.
And even just hearing you say like, hey, here's what it looks like working at this level and that level and this level, that would have been really cool. Or even just like,
here's what you're going to run into as a social worker. How would you handle it? It's absolutely fucking insane that they don't teach you anything about day-to-day operations as a social worker. Like, that's fucking crazy.
Not at my school anyway. Some had more of an emphasis on like mental health or like clinical stuff, for example, and some might have more on like different service provision.
I need to wrap up, so
wrapping up.
Wow, thank you guys for the opportunity. My God, and the big
my God.
Diamonds Weekend Review.
Diamonds Week.
Simon Dallas Page, one of my best friends, is a foreman for the company, and he came to our site and immediately got into it with my apprentice. All right, guys, quit fucking around, get to work. Da, da, da. And he's like, well, there's nothing to do, because there wasn't really anything to do. And my friend was like, oh, there's nothing to do, eh? I get into it. My apprentice comes up to me, he's like, dude, that new guy fucking sucks. I didn't know who he was referring to. I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, he's telling me what to do, this and that. I'm like, oh, that's funny. And then later we're talking about it. I'm like, oh, you mean my buddy? The three of us took break together, and it was just kind of awkward. And then my apprentice quit taking break with me. It was funny because like the last break we all took together, they actually were vibing. And then he was like, yeah, don't like the guy. I just thought it was funny. My apprentice, like, he's 20 and he's this little goofy guy. At one point he was like flexing. He was like, oh, and I was like, holy fuck, he's got giant pythons. And then I was like, are you juicing? And he's like, no. And he's like, does it look like I'm juicing?
Me?
And I was like, okay. It's giving you a compliment. No, I don't think you're on the steroids, obviously. There's one crane at my building that is so fucked. If you are like anywhere within 100 feet of it, you can like smell it and hear it. It's like black smoke shooting out of it. It's like,
and the safety guy's like, I can't look at this.
Basically, it's just like, good God. And I'm like, you're on the second story of a building and you're just like kind of coming up towards it and you're like, holy fuck, get me away from this thing. And I was trying to describe to my coworker, I was like, have you seen Fern Gully? And he's like, no.
I know you liked Fern Gully and it was like fairies and plants and stuff.
Yeah, and they're trying to protect the forest, and there's this evil oil that's like a pollutant and destroying the forest, but it's like a guy, like a ghost devil guy who's oil named Hexus. And I was like telling my coworker, I'm like, watch Fern Gully and you'll know what I'm talking about. And he's like, okay. And the next day he's like, okay, me and my wife watched half of it, but then it was getting to be too late, so we're gonna watch the rest tonight. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
That's nice. That's sweet.
And then on Friday, he was like, yeah, we finished it. And then Fern Gully 2 just started up.
That's cool. I feel like people rarely watch recommendations. I mean, I watch a lot of your recommendations.
This guy and me are fucking on a vibe. The Fern Gully guy. We were on the phone. We were driving back home. And he was telling me something like, really kind of personal stuff. And he was like, yeah, when I was young there. And all of a sudden I started getting pulled over by a cop. I was like, fuck, I gotta go, I'm getting pulled over. He's like, oh shit. And then I was on the phone with him and he's telling me this and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm speeding, there's a cop. And then I'm like, okay, I'm off the hook. And I'm like trying to focus on the conversation, and all of a sudden the cop turns the lights on. I'm like, yeah. And then the cop comes and he's like, oh, your driver's license expired. hardly seems worth pulling me over for, but
Didn't have the heart to call him back.
I know I did. Yeah. No, I called him back and he was like, yeah, I passed you on the highway. And I said, I saw the cop and I was like, hey, he looks like a nice guy. He's going to meet you and see that you're a nice guy. And then he's going to let you off with a warning. I'm like, he did let me off with a warning. And then he's like, I knew it.
I don't know how people do that. Like, to be able to see while you're on the highway, that cop looks like a nice guy. And then I saw you. And 'cause for me, like, people can see me in a car. Like, oh, I saw you driving. I feel like I can't see through someone's windshield. Like, I never recognize somebody.
You need to, like, turn your head as you're passing. Because it's also like, why did you even think to do that? Like, I guess if you're going to recognize their car, I guess.
How are you feeling about work?
Better. Now that it's nice out. And my Fern Gully guy, he's like the blueprint guy. I started doing some work that requires like a lot of blueprints. So I have the blueprints.
Is that like they give you a blueprint and then you map it out with the paint?
Yeah, like that's what doing layout is. But there's also stuff where you need to be referencing the blueprints while you're working. Now I'm taking over a lot of the reference work from him. It's nice because it's a little bit more thinking involved. No one else knows how to do it except for him. Anytime I have a question, I go talk to him. Fuck around for a while, talk about Fern Gully.
That's fun. It's fun making friends. How you feeling?
Good. I'd say.
Kind of recovered from when your phone died.
Oh. Things are good. One thing, like my car, something's wrong with it like every day.
I always have this fantasy of like buying you a RAV4 or something.
Even when your coworker or whatever buys a new car, it's like, oh fuck, it started smoking. I had to take it to the dealership or something.
Like actually smoking out of the hood, brand new.
That actually happened to a guy. But I just mean, even if you have a new car, so it's just like some shit you have to deal with all the time. My car is 15 years old and it's like, just like since the summer, I had to replace the alternator. I had a flat tire that I had to change on the side of the road. Oh my God. So stupid, but it was a big production. I had to change my flat tire, and then I had my rear axle broke and I had to get that replaced. My ignition switch needed to be replaced. I had to like take the steering wheel off and replace that, and then my trunk stopped opening. I replaced a part for that, and then my AC, I went to turn it on Friday, it's not working. And then I went to just change to my summer tires yesterday, and one of them had a couple nails in it. And I was like, how? I was driving them in the fall, and they were not flat. I go to take them, this one's completely flat, it's got 2 nails in it. I was like, when did he get the nails? And when a little squirrel was in there with a little hammer and a nail.
You think it's because you drive a Ford? And that you should have a Japanese vehicle.
I mean, yeah, if I had a Toyota, I'd be in much better shape. Ford just fucking falling apart. Probably worse with this, probably better with a Toyota. But either way, you're just always having to fix shit. And we only have one vehicle. So if there's a problem with it, I'm like, oh, I'm fucked. And I went to the dentist. My hygienist went through all my teeth and everything. And she was like, wow, beautiful teeth. She's like, you do such a good job brushing and flossing. Wow, great. And I'm like, you know, I do put the work in, so thank you. Dentist comes back, you have 3 cavities. It's like, what? And she's like, and more are coming. Sorry, what the fuck? She just told me I had great teeth. I'm putting the work in. I'm doing this stuff. That's like as many cavities I've ever had in my life. Well, I didn't floss till I was like 25, and I didn't see the dentist for fucking 7 years. And I went to the dentist, and they're like, great, beautiful teeth. And then now it's like every time I go back, they're like, oh, you're fucked. There's something wrong with your teeth. There's a part of me that thinks the dentist's doing this to me. It's only started after I started seeing them. This is slice of life stuff.
No, I'm trying to get a sense because things were seeming a little bit dire.
I honestly don't know what part was the worst for the winter, but it was bad for different reasons at different times. But yeah, it was fucking very bad that one time. You know, sun's out, feeling good.
I'm thinking now I don't need to introduce myself anymore. Just like the first few episodes, and now we don't need to.
Yeah, introducing yourself is cringe. You just be like, fucking, you know who we are by now. He's a social worker. I'm a cool guy. We come together, bang our heads together, figure out all the problems.